So here we are in Hamlet, trying to figure out what's going on. So here's Act 1, Scene 1. It says here they're in Elsinore, that's where they are. It's a platform before the castle. Okay, so we have Francisco at his post. So I guess Francisco is sort of like a guard, right? And here Bernardo comes. So Francisco is there and Bernardo is like, who's there? Why is he asking who's there? He can't see him? That's exactly right. He cannot see who's in front of him because it's pitch black. In those days, there are no lights about where, like nowadays you have lights, street lights everywhere. So you would be carrying probably a lantern to be able to guide you to where you're going. So when he says who's there, is because he literally cannot see. All the ability he has is to hear noise, and he hears noise. Somebody's approaching. So he's like, who's there? And then Francisco on the other end, right? Remember, Bernardo is the one that's going towards the security, right? And security is like, who's there, right? But that's not the security who's doing that. That's Bernardo who's going there. Who's there? He hears Francisco. And Francisco is like, no, you answer me. Stay in your place and you answer me. And unfold yourself. Unfold yourself is reveal yourself. Let me see who it is. You answer me. I'm in charge here. I'm the security. And Bernardo's answer to show that he is of their side is long live the king, because he's with them, right? And when hearing him, Francisco recognizes that it's Bernardo. So he goes, Bernardo? And he says, yeah, he, yes, it's me, he, right? Yes. And then Francisco's answer is like, oh, you come most carefully upon your hour, meaning you're tiptoeing on your way here. This is what scared me, got me worried. And your hour here is he's there to come into his shift, right? So he's questioning why he would be doing that. Why don't you just come like you normally would, as opposed to trying to sneak in, like tiptoe, like you're like a thief, like you're the enemy, you see? So Francisco had just said that, and Bernardo is, it is now struck 12, meaning it's midnight, it's 12. It's already, in those days when it says struck, it's like, when you hear the church announces the time. I guess maybe I'm wrong, but let's say there's some kind of a signal that lets them know it's midnight. So for not knowing very well, we're going through this, is just pretend that there's a church bell that announces when it's midnight, and it's, bam, bam, whatever. And so he said it just struck 12. And it seems that it's happening at that moment. At that very moment, it's now struck 12. So get thee to bed, Francisco. Meaning, okay, go take your rest now. It's my turn. I'm going to relieve you. So now go to sleep, right? Basically sending him home. So now Francisco, who is about to leave, says, oh, thank you so much. I'm so relieved because it's so cold out here. He's outdoors. It's freezing. It's bitter cold. And he's sick at heart. So there's something that's bothering him. In addition to being cold, and I am sick at heart. So something is bothering him. Have you had quiet guard? So now here is the question. Has everything been quiet? Has there been an issue? And he says, not a mouse stirring, meaning he didn't even hear the mice running around in the outdoors. So it's been very, very, very quiet. So you can imagine you're the guard and you don't hear a noise. It's cold, or you hear the wind. So you can imagine his nerves were, he's just hearing himself. So when Bernardo approached, it must have terrified him, because Bernardo was moving very softly, very quietly, like the enemy. And that's why he said, you will come most carefully upon your hour. Do you understand? Now we move on. So now Bernardo says, well, good night. Now he says to Francisco, if you do meet Horatio and Marcellus on your way out, the rivals of my watch, bid them make haste. I guess they're also coming to help him in the security. And he's basically, haste means come quickly. So if you meet Horatio and Marcellus, the rival of my watch, you bid them to make haste to come quickly. And so Bernardo says, well, good night. That's Bernardo, I'm sorry. Good night. Tell Francisco. Francisco, I think I hear them. So Francisco says, I think I hear them. So I don't have to even, as you're telling me to do that, I think I hear them. So now Francisco says, because he's not for sure. So he says, stand, ho, who's there? Because he has to find out who's there, who's coming. And he can't see them. They have to reveal themselves. And so to quickly appease them, make them feel that there's no danger, we're friends. We're friends to this ground. We're friends to this land, to the king, to this ground. And then that's Horatio, and Marcelo says, and liegemen to the Dane, meaning they're faithful to the king and what have you, right? And now that we've established that these are Marcellus and Horatio, who they are expecting, Francisco says, well, give you good night. So he's like, okay, good night. Now Marcellus responds is, oh, farewell, honest soldier. Okay, bye. You're not honest soldier. And he is asked now, who has relieved you? Marcellus, who relieved you? Obviously, Bernardo has relieved him. So Marcellus, now Francisco is gone. He exits, and now Francisco is gone. So we have Bernardo, who just came in, who's the guard, and he is now on duty. And now Marcellus and Horatio come, and Marcelo says, hello, Bernardo. And Bernardo say, what, is Horatio there? So in other words, Horatio's response is a piece of him. A piece of him, a part of him, I guess he's still sleeping, kind of thing. You understand? It's late, it's midnight. So there's a little joke there, okay. So Bernardo goes, welcome Horatio, welcome good Marcellus. So obviously, we gather a little bit here that Bernardo has been expecting them. Obviously, Horatio, by saying a piece of him, obviously that means that he's still sleeping. His mind is not really was prepared to come this evening. So obviously he's not normally there at this hour. Okay? So we understand that Horatio has been probably against his best wishes come tonight, because he says a piece of me. It's not all of him. He's not all there. A part of him is there. The rest of him is at home sleeping. Do you understand? So, and not very complicated, if you follow, right? So, a piece of him, okay? So, but now welcome Horatio, welcome Marcellus, good Marcellus. Good Marcellus meaning Like, thank you, you did such a great job, Marcellus, in bringing Horatius, right? Now, Marcellus, right? Marcellus says, what, has this thing appeared again tonight? So now we get to it. Marcellus says, this thing, has it appeared again? What thing? What thing? So something is going on, right? So Marcellus starts about, has this thing appeared tonight again? And Bernardo's answer is, I have seen nothing. Well, obviously he hasn't seen anything. He just got there not too long ago, but he has not seen anything. And Marcellus answer to Bernardo is that, well, Horatio, he thinks you guys is a fantasy. You're making this, it's all in your heads. So he says, Horatio says, 'tis but our fantasy. Oh, it's our fantasy. Not only you, but me. That's why Horatio doesn't even want to come here, because it's like you guys are just imagining things. And Marcellus continues, and will not let belief take hold of him. In other words, Horatio will not, under any circumstances, believe anything these guys are telling him. No matter what they say, Horatio's like, okay, you guys are imagining things. I am not going to believe it. So you're like, what's going on here? So then we move on. And Marcellus continues, if you're following me, you should be following me, reading the lines with me. Here it says here. So anyway, I go back to Marcellus. I go back a little bit. So here, Marcellus, it says, Horatio says, in this case, tis but our fantasy, and will not let belief take hold of him. In other words, belief will not be something that's happening with Horatio. He's not going to believe. Touching this dreaded sight twice seen by us. In other words, he is not going to believe us, even though we have seen this thing twice. We've experienced this touching, meaning we've experienced this twice. We both saw it. He will not believe us. Okay? And since he won't believe us, this is Marcellus continues, therefore I have entreated him along with us to watch the minutes of this night. So since he won't believe us, I convinced him, okay, come with me, and you can sit with us as we are in the on guard here tonight. You come with us and you see if we're imagining this thing or not. You see it for yourself. Okay? So that's what's happening. And that's why Horatio, who doesn't believe a single thing these guys are saying, he thinks he's a cuckoo, has been forced to come to tonight at midnight when he should be sleeping at home, or God knows doing what else, okay? So he's not too thrilled to be there. So that if this thing appeared, and now we know what it is, it's an apparition. That if, again, this apparition come, he may prove our eyes and speak to it. In other words, if this apparition, I guess in this case, it would be a ghost, right? An apparition come again, Horatio will prove that we're right? That our eyes are correct, that we have been seeing and saying what we believe is true. And not only that, but Horatio will speak to this ghost. And Horatio's answer to that, remember, Horatio doesn't believe anything. Oh, come on, sha. It will not appear. You guys are crazy. There's no ghost gonna appear, okay? But I'm here. I'm here to, because you guys are insisting. I'm gonna just prove you guys wrong. So remember Bernardo's the one that came in first, and he's the one that's on guard here. So let's sit down, he says. Sit down a while, because it's probably going to take some time before this ghost appears, if it ever appears. So And let us so sit down a while, and let us once again assail your ears that are so fortified against our story, what we have 2 nights seen. Okay, so here we have, he says, okay, Horatio, sit down, okay? Let me tell you this. Let both of us tell you the story, okay? We're going to fill your ears with our stories. That's what, assail your ears. That's just a fancy way of saying, okay, we're going to talk to you and you're going to hear us. We're going to tell you what we both saw so that you can believe us in order to strengthen what we're saying. Fortify against our story that are so fortified. And let us assail your ears that are so fortified against the story. Okay, so let us talk to you because you're so against believing us. Right? You're so against us. We're going to repeat our story again, what we both saw, even though you're against. It doesn't matter what we say, you're not going to believe us. We're going to tell you again because you're so against even listening to us and hearing what we have to say. Because we have seen this thing, this apparition twice, 2 nights. 2 nights we have seen it. So Horatio says, well, sit we down. Okay, we'll sit down. And let us hear Bernardo speak of this. Now, Bernardo is going to speak because remember, Marcellus is the one that brought Horatio. And now he's going to listen to Bernardo and see if those stories match. He's like a little bit like a detective, you know what I mean? Okay, Bernardo, you're going to, okay, I'm open to this ghost story, right? So Bernardo goes on and he says, last night of all, when yon same star that's westward from the pole, where now it burns, Marcellus and myself, the bell then beat in one. So, okay, so last night of all. So he says, last night of all. So now he's talking about last night. And now because in those days they don't have watches and clocks, so they go by the star that's on the westward from the pole. So, okay, so when this is that time. That's how they're able to, I guess, tell time, okay? And where it burns, meaning when it's bright, right? When it burns, Marcellus and me, right? Marcellus and myself, and then the bell, because there's a bell, remember? There's a bell, there's somebody that hits the bell like the church, struck 1. At 1 a.m. they saw this thing. And at that very moment, the story begins. Because remember, there's no need for us to hear the story. Okay? We're going to quickly show that they're telling the truth. And what happens? The ghost enters. And Marcellus says, peace. Now, I am saying it calmly here, but you can imagine in the dark at 1 o'clock, if it's 1 o'clock, we're assuming that it is not 1, it's 12 because they talked about 12. But it does mention 1 here. But last night at 1. And at that very moment, peace break. No, so it is 12 or thereabouts because that's when they came. There's no, unless we can come up with some other time, we're going to say it's around 12-ish, okay? Now here enters the ghost, and Marcellus, remember Marcellus is the one that brought Horatio. In fear, he's in panic. Peace, because he doesn't know what's coming. You know, if you had a ghost or something coming at you, you're saying peace because you don't want to get it. If it's the devil or evil, whatever, you want that thing out of your life. You want them out. You go, peace, break thee off. Look where it comes again. So now, everything is come to a stop. Peace, break thee off. Look where it comes. So now, all eyes on the ghost. Okay? And then Bernardo says, look, it's in the same figure like the king that's dead. So now, we're talking about the king. Obviously, the king died. And now they're saying that this is the king roaming about. The ghost, the spirit, whatever is coming. Okay? So something is up. What could it be? And Marcelo says, thou art a scholar, speak to Horatius. In other words, you're the intellectual, you're the brains, you're the scientist, you have all the facts. You speak to this ghost, Horatio. You're the scholar. Speak to it, Horatio. Come on. You said it, believe us, right? You speak to us. Obviously, it wasn't said that way, but you get my meaning. It's like, okay, you didn't believe us. You believe that now? And Horatio, Bernardo goes, doesn't it look like the king? Look at it, mark it, Horatio, mark it. Look. It's not the king? Huh? Isn't what we're saying? Does it or does it not look like the king? And Horatio, the scholar, the non-believer, who needed proof, right? Show me the money, guy. Where's the proof? I don't believe you if I don't have the proof. You guys are crazy. Now he's stuck because he has the proof in front of him. That's what he wanted. Now he got it. And Horatio's answer to that is, yes, it looks like the king, most like. It horrors me with fear and wonder. He is terrified. Is shaking to the bone. This scientist, this scholar, this intellectual is frightened to death now. And he's like, how can this be? How can this be? And Bernardo says, it would be spoke to, meaning the ghost. You could speak to it. And Marcellus goes, yeah, you can talk to it. Question it, Horatio, question it. Huh? Horatio is like, oh my God, I'm stuck. He's probably thinking to himself, I'm stuck. So he goes, what art thou? He speaks to the ghost. What art thou that usurps this time of night? Who are you? What are you that you're stealing this time of night? That you appear in this usurps this time of night, together with a fair and warlike form. In other words, with a warlike form in which the majesty of Beridemic did sometimes march. In other words, you are dressed like the way the king used to dress when he used to go to war. And then because remember, it could be the devil, hell, not a good thing. So he uses, at that point, heaven comes to his heart, God comes to, by heaven I charge thee, by God I charge thee, speak. Yeah? That's Horatio the scholar. All of a sudden, he's believing. He can't believe his eyes, and now he's talking to the apparition and the ghost. And Bernardo and Horatio's jaws are like in fear. They're just dumbfounded and scared to death. And Marcelo's response, because we don't know what's going on, Marcelo says, it is offended. So the ghost has reacted like he's offended. Because, see, it stalks away. Now it's running away. I guess the part of heaven scared the ghost. And it's offended. What does that mean? So what's going on? It stalks away. And Horatio says, because Horatio wants to stay, speak. I charge thee, speak. Horatio's in panic. Trying to get the ghost to speak to me. I by heaven, I charge thee, speak, stay, speak, I charge thee, speak. And what does the ghost do? The ghost disappears. He exits. What's going on here? And Marcelo confirms this. It's gone. 'Tis gone and will not answer. Horatio, it won't answer you. It will not answer. It's gone. It disappeared and it will not answer. And Bernardo goes, how now, Horatio? You tremble and look pale. Wow. He got the scholar. The scholar is completely pale. He's trembling in fear. Is not this something more than fantasy? That's when they get him back. Huh? You said it was fantasy? What about that? Huh? What think you on it? What do you think now, huh? So Bernardo, that was Bernardo. Sorry. And Horatio, before my God. Oh, interesting. My God. Okay, before my God, I might not disbelieve. What is it? Who is his God? Is it science? Science doesn't believe in ghosts. Before my God. Very interesting. I might not disbelieve without the sensible and truth avouch of mine own eyes. In other words, before my God, his science, his intellect, his brain. I don't believe you guys unless if I had not seen this with my own eyes. And Marcelo's answer to that, is it not the king? Is it not the king? Which was what we were saying. And Horatio says, as thou art to thyself. In other words, as you are to you. As you, Marcellus, are you to you? Yes, that is the king. Such was the very armor he had on when the ambitious Norway combated. In other words, he's wearing the combat armor that he wore when he fought Norway. So frowned he once. In other words, the expression, yeah, he frowned that way once, when in an angry pal he smote the sledded pollocks on the ice. In other words, he has seen that expression before, and when I commanded him, he was angry like the king. When he fought, interesting, when he fought the pollocks on the ice. In other words, when he mentioned by heaven, he was fighting heaven. That was the same expression. Interesting that he would use that. So, is he implying that this is not, that this is an apparition from hell or purgatory? We don't know yet. But he's clearly, he just contrasted that idea of, he had that expression when he was angry and he smote the sledded pollocks on the ice when he killed them. Interesting. So the heaven thing had an impact on him and he would want to destroy it. Interesting. So he's not from heaven. That much we know. Because he says it here. And now and then Horatio's is strange that I got that expression. Horatio's not saying what's going on. It's just strange. He's keeping something to himself. And then Marcellus, thus twice before, and jump at this dead hour, with martial stalk hath he gone by our watch. Thus twice before. Okay, so thus twice before. Okay, so we've established that twice before, and jump at this dead hour. I guess he's either disappear or, but at this, around this time, this apparition is appearing and disappearing. With martial stalk hath he gone by our watch. And I'm assuming with martial stalk hath he gone by our watch. And sure enough, he's gone. As we have seen it, and we have seen it for the past 2 nights. So now, we understand that the king recently died, and now it's appearing, and it's appearing twice, so something is wrong. And we also understand that this king is not from heaven. Okay, so now Marcellus, Horatio says, in what particular thought to work, I know not. But in the growth and scope of my opinion, this bodes some strange eruption to our state. So now Horatio is like, I don't know how to think about this. And what particular thought to work, I know not. In other words, I don't know what to make of all this. But in the gross scope of my opinion, this boasts some strange eruption towards day. In other words, if I'm to guess here, but in the gross scope of my opinion, I'm thinking something is happening here in the state, in the country. The king just died, so something is, I'm speculating here, but something is off here. Why would the king appear now for the third night, and he just died? So something is wrong. So Marcellus is good now. So now that we're all good, now we're all understanding what's happening here. We're all good, right? Okay, we got our stuff together, right? Okay, let's sit down and tell me. So this is Marcellus. Marcellus is the one that came and brought in Horatio. Good now. Sit down and tell me, he that knows. Okay, let's sit down and you tell me, intellectual, you know, right? You that know, why this same strict and most observant watch so nightly toils the subject of the land, and why such daily cast of brazen cannon and foreign mart for implements of war. Okay? In other words, now you're the smart one. You're the brains, you're the science, you're the scholar, blah, blah. You that know a lot. Okay. I know nothing, right? Marcellus is saying, I know nothing. I'm an ignorant. I have no schooling. I have nothing. You tell me why this apparition that is so strict on coming in at this time, at this hour, night after night after night. Why? Why such impressive shipwrecks whose sore task does not divide the Sunday from the week? What might be toward that this sweaty haste doth make the night join laborers with the day? Who is it that cometh can inform me? In other words, can you tell me? Can you explain how is possible and I think here that he's using a little bit of he's saying here, why this same strict and most observant watch so nightly toils the subject of the land? Okay? And why such daily cast of brazen cannon and foreign mart for implements of war? Why such impress of shipwrecks whose sore task does not divide the Sunday from the week? What might be toward that this sweaty haste doth make the night join labor with the day? In other words, it is going back and forth and comparing the night with the day, the good and the evil. Why is this thing coming to our land here? Something is disturbed, but who can tell me that? If you can't, then I guess nobody can. Explain it to me. So Horatio says, that can I? Well, okay, so maybe he can. So he goes, at least the whisper goes so. Okay, so I guess whisper goes so there's a rumor. Okay. All right, so I can explain it, at least according to what I'm hearing. The chit-chatting and the gossip. Okay, so here we go. Our last king. The last king is the one that appeared. Okay, that just died. Whose image even but now appeared to us, right? And he's basically the last king, the one that the image appeared to us, the appearance. Was, as you know, by Fortinbras of Norway, thereto pricked on by a most emulate pride, there to the combat. Okay, so as you know, Fortinbras of Norway, I guess, confronted the king and said, let's start something, let's start a fight, let's go to war, whatever. And the king, the father, King Hamlet, is also named Hamlet, in which our valiant Hamlet, for so this side of our known world esteemed him, this Fortinbras. Okay, so in essence, What is being said here is that the past king, which is the one that appeared, the ghost that appeared now, whose name is also Hamlet, King Hamlet, or Father Hamlet, or however you want to call it, was provoked to war with Fortinbras, who he highly esteemed. And because of that, of his pride, because he esteemed it, he went and killed Fortinbras. And if by doing that, there was an agreement that if he were to do something like that, he would take all that land from Fortinbras. And that's exactly what he did. He seized, as he was the conqueror, he won. And it goes on, and I think at that point, the story is mirroring, because remember, in Hamlet here, we discover that the king is dead, and now we're uncovering that he killed another king. This story is going to be about Hamlet, which is the son, and in that other world over there where Fortinbras died, was killed by the king, he too had a son that was supposed to inherit that kingdom. Now, with this king, Hamlet was supposed to inherit this kingdom by the ghost dying. Okay, so that's what's being mentioned here. I'll look at it again. Here we say, so there are two, okay, that can I. So Horatio says I can explain this, okay, at least the whisper goes so. So based on what I know, the stories I've heard, it was, as you know, by Fortune. Okay, who's in? Okay, so the last king. So the story is that Fortinbras of Norway for whatever reason, for pride or what have you, they're too pricked on by a most emulate pride. I guess he felt like invincible, you know. He thought he was the greatest, a lot of pride. He dared the king Hamlet, the ghost, to combat. He thought he was going to win. He felt so sure of himself, so he dared the king Hamlet to combat, to go to war, because of pride. And the valiant Hamlet, the ghost, which we saw dressed in combat, just like when he went to fight, okay? In the combat they went to fight Fortinbras of Norway. He's dressed and appearing this way. So, and at this point, when he dared him to combat, the valiant Hamlet, this side, and he basically saying this particular world admired Fortinbras, and probably the king too. But, in other words, when the king went and fought, and to combat Fortinbras, and not only that, but killed them, people in general kept a high esteem of Fortinbras. Let's say that they loved him. So by slaying him, probably created conflicted feelings about him doing that. Okay, the ghost killing Fortinbras when he was alive. And then it says, and who by a sealed compact, well ratified by law and heraldry, did forfeit with his life all those his lands which he stood seized of to the conqueror. So there must have been some kind of a will or some kind of a law which he signed or whatever, that all those lands that Fortinbras had won and conquered, that were all his, all the possessions that he had, whoever conquered him would take that, would seize that. It would become theirs. And so by King Hamlet conquering Fortinbras, he now had all that. He expanded his wealth and his territories. So that's what's happened so far. Against the which a mighty competent was gauged by our king, which had returned to the inheritance of Fortinbras, had he been vanquisher, as by the same covenant and carriage of the article designed. His fell to Hamlet. Now, to the inheritance of Fortinbras, okay, so against the which a mighty competent was gauged by our king, which had returned to the inheritance of Fortinbras, had he been vanquisher. Against the which a mighty competent was gauged by our king, which had returned to the inheritance of Fortinbras, had been vanquisher, as by the same covenant and carriage of the article design, his fell to Hamlet. Now, sir, young Fortinbras. Okay, so it seems that, okay, so if the king had lost, then he would have returned. He would have to have given up all his land to Fortinbras. In other words, whoever won took the other's possessions, all the lands and what have you. Interesting. So that's what I'm understanding of this. If I'm wrong, then make it in the notes. If I've said anything wrong, please correct me, because I'm going through this with you. If you've been following, it's very important, because this is the foundation of the play. And without this, you will be completely at a loss as to what's going on. So now, we understand that there was that put out. Let's see. Had he had been vanquisher to the inheritance of Fortinbras. Had he been vanquisher as the same covenant and carriage of the article design, he has fell to Hamlet. Now, sir, young Fortinbras. Now, young Fortinbras. So I guess young Fortinbras is the son of Fortinbras, of unimproved metal, hot and full. I guess he's still he must be young, but he has a temper, he's full of life and nothing can stop him, but he has improved himself. So hath in the skirts of Norway here and there sharked up a list of lawless resolutes for food and diet to some enterprise, that hath a stomach in it, which is no other, as it doth well appear unto our state, but to recover of us by strong hand in terms compulsory those foresaid lands, so by his father lost. And this, I take it, is the main motive of our preparations, the source of this our watch, and the chief head of this post haste and rummage of the land. Okay, so the son of Fortinbras has been recruiting whomever he can get. And here he says, listed even lawless people, criminals, whomever, for food and for any food. In those days, food was very valuable. If you can get somebody to feed you, that was great. So he feeds them, and he says, we're going to go and you're going to be part of my army, and we're going to go and and fight for me, but I'm going to feed you if you fight for me. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's gathering up troops, anybody that can come and fight for him. That's what he's doing. And that's why they're on guard. That's why all this is going on, because we here, the king is protecting themselves from Fortebras, because if Fortebras comes and comes to war, which is what's likely to happen, let's see, to recover by strength. So he's gonna, the same way his lands, which were supposed to be his inheritance, was taken from his father, and he's lost his inheritance. The covenant is the same for if he's to kill the king, he will get not only his land back, but also the land of this king. So he can get his inheritance back. All he has to do is go to war with the new king and kill him, just like his father Fortebras was killed, and now he will have his in all this land. And that's basically what is being said here. Since he lost his father, he's out for revenge. Got it? And that's very important. Fortebras' father Fortebras, the king, was killed, and his son is out for revenge. And that's exactly where we're heading here. So we have two stories happening, one which we do not see, that's happening in the background, and one that we actually are experiencing as the play unfolds, okay? So now, so he's determined, this Fortinbras' son is determined. He's young, he hasn't proven himself, but he is a hot temper, and he's full of life, and nothing is going to stop him, and he'll recruit whomever he can recruit, criminals, non-criminals, it does not matter. They'll do it for a piece of food, not much, they'll do it, and they'll come with him, and he is determined to come and overthrow this king and be the king of this land and recover his land. So that's what's happening in the background, okay? And that's what Horatio is telling us, why this is happening. So by his father laws, and this, I take it, is the main motive of our preparations. Okay, so in other words, that's why we're here on guard, and I guess the king is preparing for war, because he does expect the son of Fortinbras to revenge his father and come wage war here in Denmark. Okay? Okay. So then Bernardo, remember Bernardo's the first guy that came and relieved the previous Francisco. Make sure I don't get my names mixed up here, but yes. Yes, Francisco. So Bernardo says, I think it be no other, but I don't think it could be anything else. But even so, well may it sort that this portentous figure comes armed through our watch, so like the king that was and is the question of these wars. I think it be no other, but I don't think it's anything else. But even so, well may it sort that this portentous figure comes armed through our watch. In other words, the king is coming armed, like he's ready to go to war. The king Hamlet, the apparition that has appeared here to them, is preparing for war himself. He comes armed while we are on guard during our watch at this time. So like the king that was and is the question of this wars. And in other words, there's these wars that are about to happen that we're preparing for, and here he is, ready, the king, the old king, ready to fight. But he is no longer living, so he's dead. So that's very interesting. And Horatio says, a mote it is to trouble the mind's eye. In the most high and palmy state of Rome, a little ere the mightiest Julius fell, the grave stood tenantless, and the sheeted dead did squeak and gibber in the Roman streets, as stars with trains of fire and dews of blood, disasters in the sun, and the moist star upon whose influence Neptune's empire stands was sick almost to doomsday with eclipse, and even the like precursor of fierce events, as harbingers preceding still the fates, and prologue to the omen coming on, have heaven and earth together demonstrated unto our climatures and countrymen, but soft, behold, lo, where it comes again. Okay, so here, now the Spirit has appeared again. Interesting, for the second time. And Horatio is saying that now he's comparing Rome and how Julius, the mighty Julius fell, and how things were like a dark omen because of how things fell, and there were signs, and there was like an eclipse, and he's going on and on. It was like a dooms, and he's comparing this, what might be happening here might be similar to what happened there. And as he's talking, he mentions here that served as a prologue, as an introduction as to what was to come. And exactly what's happening here in the play. This is the prologue. This is the prologue of things to come. So things are not good. That's what he is saying here. Of the omen coming on. And prologue to them, have heaven and earth together demonstrated unto our climatures and country. But okay, and then he mentions here, was sick almost to doomsday with eclipse, and even the like precursor of fierce events as harbingers preceding still late. Okay, hold on. He mentions here the graves stood tenantless and the sheeted dead. Okay. Dews of blood. Okay. In other words, none of it is good.